When I was 17 years old, I got a job at the local Texaco station while I was going to high school here in Mount Shasta. They always said, trust your car to the man who wears the star. Earl Bassett was my boss. He owned the station, and he always trained me. He said, Dale, remember, here at Bassett Texaco, we give full service. I said, yes, sir, Earl, Mr. Bassett. Now, Earl was a really fine man, a good family man. Every now and then he would take his family on a little mini vacation for the weekend, a little road trip here or there. On this particular spring weekend, he had planned a vacation, and just like he always did, he said, Dale, you know what to do. Open it up in the morning, give the customers full service, and close it up at night. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Bassett. So the weekend came, and Saturday morning I opened it up, and it was a spring day, probably in May, nice and warm, comfortable, kind of like today. And it was pretty mellow. Some of our locals would come in and say, $1 worth of regular. Give me $2 worth of regular. Now, regular was what most people in Mount Shasta used. We had two grades of gas. The silver pump, Texaco called their Supreme. We called it Ethel. And the red pump was a regular. Almost everybody used regular. So Saturday morning was really calm and nice, and everything went smoothly. And closed it up at night, and got some sleep, came back Sunday morning, opened it up again. It's a nice, calm Mount Shasta Sunday morning. I see some of my friends driving by on the way to church, and I waved, and they waved back. And then I saw some of the other folks I knew across the street going into the Veterans Club for their Sunday morning communion. So I go out to the lube room. So I'm wiping down some tools, putting everything away where it belongs. All the tools belong in a certain spot, have to be put away. Wiping down the oil cans, cleaning up. When I hear ding ding, that meant somebody had run over the hose out of the gas pump, which rang a bell in the lube room. So I hustled up, headed out towards the gas pump, and I look over there, and sitting at the gas pump is a red, brand new Cadillac convertible. And as I approach from the back that Cadillac convertible, I can see in the driver's seat long blonde hair. And right away, my first thought is, she's not from around here. So I come up to the driver's side and I say, just like Mr. Bassett taught me, yes, ma'am, can I fill it with Ethel? And I swear, looking in there at the driver's seat is Miss Jane Mansfield. Now, some of you younger people probably don't know who Jane Mansfield is, but at the time, she was the Hollywood movie bombshell. Before there was Marilyn Monroe, there was a Jane Mansfield. And she's there at my gas pump, and I'm in charge. So when I said, fill it with Ethel, she didn't even look at me. Looking straight ahead, she just said, yes, fill it with Ethel. So I hustled back to the left rear taillight, and I pressed that little round reflector button under the taillight lens, and the taillight lens popped open, and there was the gas cap underneath the taillight lens. Genius. I took off the cap, put the gas hose in there to fill her up with Ethel. Now it was time for full service. I raced around to the front of the car, lifted up that big hood, Went over to the driver's side, leaned over the fender, under the hood. I'm going to check the oil. I reach for the dipstick, and then I look over my right shoulder. And if you've ever had your head underneath a 50s Cadillac, you know that there's a gap between the cowl and the back of the hood of about 4 or 5 inches. You can look right into the driver's seat. So I'm under there, going to check the oil, and I'm looking at Jane Mansfield. She's wearing a little sundress, I think they call it. And my view of the driver was from the neck to the navel. And the hormones are raging. I tried to put the dipstick back in the hole. I checked the air cleaner. I checked her battery. I checked the hoses on the radiator. I checked the fan belt. Finally, I ran out of things to check under the hood. I reluctantly closed the hood. Now it was time to check the tires. I reached for my trusty tire pressure gauge I always kept in my shirt pocket. I checked all 4 tires. Then I checked the spare tire. Then I reported back to Miss Mansfield. I said, "Ma'am, your air cleaner is pristine. Your oil is good. Your radiator fluids are super. A little bit warm, super. Your battery is great. And your hoses, they're outstanding. And I checked all your tires, and now they are all up to absolute correct pressure. Now your right rear was a little bit low on air, so I pumped up your right rear. And now it's just right, just like all the others." So now it was time to clean the windshield, of course. And we had a metal bucket sitting right there between Ethel and regular, filled with soapy water and sponges. I reached in, grabbed a sponge and some paper towels. I went over to the driver's side, went to the windshield. Now the windshield on this Cadillac is a big wrap-around windshield, wraps around the left, right side, kind of over the top also. It's huge. I'm scrubbing on that windshield, scrubbing and scrubbing, and I'm looking down right into Miss Jane Mansfield's lap. And I scrubbed that windshield. I scrubbed every bug wing, every bug tentacle, every bug leg. I scrubbed it until there was nothing left to scrub. Then I got the paper towels and I shined it. I polished that windshield till it just shone. It was the cleanest windshield you ever saw. I went around to the passenger side and I started scrubbing the windshield on that side. And this was a whole different view looking through that windshield. I scrubbed it and scrubbed it, got every bug, every little tiny speck of dust there, everything. I polished it dry with the paper towels. I couldn't wash it anymore, so I ran around to the back, to the left rear taillight, took the gas hose out, put the gas cap back on, closed the taillight lens, and then noticed how much the bill was. Now, it couldn't have been too much. At 30 cents a gallon, probably $6 or $7 to fill a whole Cadillac tank. So I went up to the driver's side and I said, "Ma'am," I told her how much the bill was. She didn't even look at me. She's busy putting on some lipstick. And she's doing something like, and I'd never seen that before. But she had a $20 bill that she just stuck up in the air like that. I took the 20. I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'll get you change." And as I whirled around to go to the cash register and get the change, I stepped my foot right into that metal bucket full of soapy water. And I could not get it off. I struggled. It would not come off. I was wearing my Converse high top, All Stars with a rubber sole, and it was jammed into that metal bucket. So I said, well, maybe she won't notice. So I went over to the cash register, clank, 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 clank. I made the change. Again, I tried to get out of that bucket. I'm still stuck. I think, well, she needs her change. So I clank, 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 clank back. I gave her a change, and just like Mr. Bassett taught me, I said, thank you, ma'am. Please come again. Did I just say that to her? Finally, she slowly turned her head and looked up at me, these big eyelashes flashing. She looked at me and she said, do you always walk around with a bucket on your foot? At that, she fired up that big V8 motor and headed south on Highway 99. And I'm left standing there between Ethel and Regular with my foot in a metal bucket full of soapy water, wondering what to do now. And I hear laughter. I look over on the sidewalk, and two of my high school buddies are over there. They had seen the whole thing, and they're laughing their ass off. Anyway, by the time I got back to school Monday morning, the whole school had heard the story, and all the guys had come up to me and called me Bucketfoot. Hey, Bucketfoot. Hey, Bucketfoot. Some of the girls would come up to me in the hallway and say, do you always walk around with a bucket on your foot? But I didn't care. Didn't bother me one bit. Because I knew in my 17-year-old teenage boy's mind, on that day, I had given Miss Jane Mansfield Cadillac full service. Thank you.
You can trust your car to the man who wears the star. He's the man best qualified to take care of your car at every Texaco station, clean across the nation. You can trust your car to the man who wears the star, the big bright Texaco